Hey friends, welcome to the second season of So, What Makes You Come Alive podcast, inspiring conversations with everyday humans like you about what lights them up. We're your hosts, Gabe the Girl
and Michaela McGee, and this season, we're continuing to explore what it would look like to take ownership of and change the narratives of our lives to live a life fully alive.
Hey everybody, welcome back to So, What Makes You Come Alive podcast. I'm Gabe the Girl.
And I'm Michaela.
And we are diving into a brand new type of conversation this week after last week's jam-packed episode with all the goodness. We have so much that we want to kind of just break down. There's a lot of stuff that was touched on in our interview with Dr. Sam last week that we're going to be talking about today. So if you haven't listened to her episode, please go back. Take 45 minutes or put it on double speed, listen to it in half the time. take less than 30 minutes to listen to it. And I'm sure that you will be just as ready for this conversation as we are. We have decided to have this conversation because there are just some things that need more processing. They need more conversation around them. I think Michaela and I, we talked about it before we hopped on this podcast episode today of just how greatly impactful that conversation was. And I think a lot of it actually did come from having so many things surface in that conversation that we had touched on before in previous episodes with previous guests. And it just kind of all came to a peak and we're like, okay, there's a lot to chew on here. There's a lot that we kind of want to spend a little bit more time with before we move on and into a new conversation or into new topics. And we think if you did listen to last week's episode, you might agree with us. There's some things that, I will be first to say that, like, I don't know that I was necessarily completely ready for the conversation.
Yep.
It felt so
I do believe that was the
unprepared.
text you sent me right after.
I was like,
not
what?
prepared.
Literally, that is the very words I sent to Michaela in a text afterwards. I was like, what just happened? I was not prepared. But here we are post holidays, taking some time. I'm not gonna rush it. I think the general feeling after the holidays is like, okay, into the new year, like let's go full steam ahead. And I'm like, okay, well, I need a little more time.
Yes. So, yeah. I mean, that decompression time is important. And also, like, what direction are you really running if you're just full steam ahead and you don't know, and I think that that's what was so powerful about that conversation with Sam last week was like, it really brought to light a lot of things that we probably have been aware of. They've come up in previous conversations in this podcast too. And so, like, maybe some of you listeners are actually feeling the same way. Like, some of these pieces are really coming back multiple times. And so this gets to be an opportunity for, like, maybe I should be paying attention to these things. But it's almost like, okay, how can I center myself on what's truly important, or on, like, how can I get in line with the vision that I really have for my life? And I think that Sam brought up so many excellent points for, like, really getting back in touch with ourselves first and foremost, so that we can better serve other people, so that we know, like, who we are, what we have to offer, what direction we're really going in life. Like, January, honestly, it's just a month on the calendar. Maybe the new year doesn't really mean anything to you. Maybe there's a different time of year that means a new beginning at a different, I mean, like, February is birthday month for me. So for me personally, February feels more like the new beginning, but I like the energy of January and where people are just like, okay, I'm turning over a new leaf, literally. Like, I have to go get a new calendar from the store. Like, whatever it is.
That's so funny. You and I have never talked about this before, I don't believe. And for me, it's very much the same. Like, yes, I love January. I love the idea of, starting a new year and, casting new vision for a new
Mm-hmm.
year. But honestly, until June rolls around and my birthday month comes about, I'm like, okay, this is when I'm exiting one
Mm-hmm.
year and entering into a new year of life. And, I
Yeah.
start reflecting a lot more, I think, around that time of my
Mm-hmm.
birthday. So that's so funny. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that you and I were similar on that.
Kind of the same. Yeah, but I think that that's even an invitation for all of you listeners too. Like, when really feels like a new year for you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what marks the end of one cycle and into the next cycle or whatever? Like, whatever
Mm-hmm.
time that is for yourself, I do invite you to be asking these questions for yourself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
where are you going? What's going to be different about this year ahead versus
Mm-hmm.
the previous year or years? Like, do you
Yeah.
really want to change? And that was even
Mm-hmm.
something that Sam brought up too, like this idea that our legacy starts now. Like, we don't have
Yeah.
to wait until retirement or until after
Mm-hmm.
we die or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that to leave a legacy. You're constantly building your legacy every single day
Yeah.
of your life. And so, are you
Yeah.
really actively
Mm-hmm.
living it out? I just feel like I
Mm-hmm.
just unloaded a whole bunch of stuff
It's so
from
good.
her
It's so
episode, but it
good.
was
Yeah.
so good. That whole conversation was incredible, and I'm glad that we're breaking it down,
Mm-hmm.
diving deep
Yeah.
into this stuff.
Yeah. I love thinking on like it starts now. Like it
Mm-hmm.
can start whenever you decide it's the right time to start. It could
Yeah.
be tomorrow. It could be next week. It could, whenever you start is a good time and place to start.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to wait for, a special um, you know, New Year's Eve in order
No.
to make new changes in your life. And you don't have to wait till your birthday
Mm-mm.
either. Like
No.
whenever you decide to make the changes, like you have just as much opportunity in front of you as you did, New Year's
Yeah.
Eve.
Yeah.
There's still so much life ahead to really benefit from the changes that you'll start to make today
Mm-hmm.
or tomorrow or next week.
Totally.
Yeah,
And it doesn't even have
and
to be massive.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's like some of
doesn't
the
have to
pressure that
be.
gets put on us. It's
Yeah, and
like,
it doesn't have
new
to be
year, new me.
broadcasted on social
No.
media. It doesn't have, don't have to put in your before and after photos for everybody to see or,
Mm-mm.
make a list. Like, but it is always a great idea to get a trusted person that you can have
Mm.
confidence in to say like, hey, these are some changes that I'm going to be making. These are some goals that I have for myself. These are some things that I've realized in me that I really want to see change.
Mm.
Um, or these are some things that I want to let go of. These are some things that I'm dreaming about. Have somebody there. We've talked about that in, probably a couple past episodes, at least one, where
Yeah.
it's like, find somebody you can trust with your vision, with your dreams, with your, be vulnerable, open with them. And,
Mm-hmm.
they can be there to help support you and encourage you through that time. Make some smart goals, sustainable, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely goals.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I love what you said in the last episode, Michaela, when you said nothing changes if nothing changes. I'm like, well,
Mm.
duh. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
But
So that,
also,
yeah. So if we're doing the work, kind of like, what Dr. Sam talked about in our last episode, which is checking in with yourself and saying, okay, what is actually going on in me? She talked about working with the wild horses and how from
mm,
4 feet away they can, detect your heart rate and you are communicating something.
mm,
Um, and her big thing for those of you who listened in, or maybe you're just listening to this episode now, is about helping other people with their communication, especially in areas of conflict, helping them thrive in that, helping them to be more self-aware of the things inside of them that they need to tend
mm,
to. um, so, taking a look at ourselves and saying, okay, nothing changes if nothing changes. What things are trying to get my attention that are within me, that need change, need love,
mm.
need care, need rest, need
Yeah.
encouragement.
Yes. I think it's so important to be tuning into ourselves. And that
Mm-hmm.
is, she spoke to that. I mean, I guess the three of us really talked about that
Mm-hmm.
a lot last
Yeah.
week. Um, was this idea of really tending to, Gabe, you said it so beautifully, tend to your own garden. Like
Yeah.
our lives on every level are a piece of the garden. You know, our
Mhm.
physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health is all part of the
Mhm.
garden. Are we tending to every
Mhm.
bit of that for ourselves so
Yeah.
that we can show up well for others? Like,
Yeah.
there's no way that we can show up well if, sorry, laughing. For those of you who are not on video right now, my puppy Maggie just decided to join us on the couch. And by us, I mean me, because Gabe and I are not in the same place, but it's fine. Anyway, she
That's
just
great.
launched herself up here. She has something to say too.
Mhm.
But it is so, so, so important. I have noticed this personally. And one of the sayings that has been like most impactful for me in regards to um, how to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others well is we all know the saying, you can't give from an empty cup. And for so
Yeah.
long, I was giving from a filled ish cup. You know, like as long as I
Mhm.
was like kind of taking care of myself, I was like, that's fine. I can definitely take care of other people. But really, in reality, the only way that you
Mhm.
can actually give abundantly and freely is from an overflowing cup. And that
Yeah.
really, really changed a lot of things for me, was realizing just how
Mhm.
important it is to completely fill my cup to the point of overflow so
Yeah.
that I can, because that's unconditional, right? Like that's
Mhm.
just excess, and we get to
Yeah.
give from that excess. We have
Mhm.
the opportunity to give from abundance and give
Yeah.
abundantly when we first tend to our
Mhm.
own garden, our own
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah. Mutually beneficial. Not
Mm-hmm.
only is it beneficial for you to be taking a look at what is in need within yourself and tending to that, but you will so much
Mm-hmm.
better impact, love, serve those around you from a place where you are, you are filled, you have abundance to pour out.
Mm-hmm.
I like you, Michaela, like I was, as you were talking, I was thinking, I was like, how long did I go before I realized that I had needs,
Hmm.
and that I needed to be tending to and trying to figure out? That was one of the first questions you asked me. And I was 25 years old. And you were like, okay, well, like, what do you need? And I was like, I have needs. I don't know what I need.
Right?
Like, and then learning what it meant to take care of those needs. It was a whole year
Mm.
of that. I literally could not do the things that I wanted to do, which was like serving others that year, because it was literally, the year was spent learning how to take care of myself, and there was
Mm-hmm.
no getting around it.
Right.
I spent 2 decades and a half, you know, in this rhythm of, burnout and, not having my own needs or tending to my own garden. And so now it's a growing and learning process that's ongoing to
Mm-hmm.
rewire that, to take control of the narrative that, like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
writing and that I'm telling myself. I actually, I feel proud today because I spoke some affirmations and truths
Yes.
out loud as I was
Good.
like walking around my apartment. I was like, man, actually it's
Yeah.
more, you know. Um
Amazing. I'm so proud of
yeah,
you
and but
too.
oh, thank you.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that just to pat myself on the back, but I'm just
I
saying that,
am.
like, it's one of those small steps that from that previous conversation and, from the last season,
Mm.
of all our conversations with other people, that I'm like, come on. Like, I'm even taking
Yeah.
a workshop right now that's all about wonder and, taking ownership of your narrative and realizing that, it doesn't have to be all done in a day.
Mm.
Like,
Right.
we can take small steps that are fruitful and
Yeah.
multiplying,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
will take time. And
Mhm.
so becoming friends with time is also
Yeah.
something that I think is a big deal.
Super. Oh, yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, time is our most precious resource. That's the one thing that we can never get back. You know, we can't earn
Mhm.
more time. We can't make it out of thin air. We can't go back in time. Nothing at
Mhm.
all. But we have other resources that are renewable in some way. You know, we can
Mhm.
always trade our time for money, but to get more money, but then we're sacrificing time at the end of the day. And I think
Mhm.
recognizing that time is the one most precious thing that we
Mm.
actually have that has been
Yeah.
gifted to us every single day with every breath that we take. And so, how are you really
Mhm.
choosing to spend that time? Is
Mhm.
I mean, that can be like kind of an overwhelming thought because you're just like, oh my gosh, well, like I got to pay the bills. So I got to keep working and I got to, take care of my kids or I have to take care of the dogs or I have to do like, have to. But you still get to choose, your mindset in it. You get to choose who you are, how you are showing up, how you are taking care of yourself in all of it. Um, the one other thing that you just said, Gabe, that made me think of this book called The Slight Edge. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but it
Mm.
talks about like these micro changes that we make that
Mhm.
over the course of time, um,
Mhm.
it's like this like exponential difference, like at the very
Mhm.
beginning it doesn't look like a huge difference when it's like
Mhm.
one tiny little thing that you're choosing to do every day. Maybe
Mhm.
I'm starting to prioritize
Mhm.
stretching every day, so like 5 minutes a day I'm stretching, but over the course of time that's going to make
Mhm.
me so much more mobile, so much more comfortable, able to do a lot more things, 20, 30 years from now that maybe
Mhm.
if I didn't start that little 5 minute thing right now every day
Yeah.
would not allow me to do that. But thinking about that in the context of nothing changes if nothing changes, and we are here to live a life on purpose, I believe. Like what are
Mhm.
we doing?
Yeah.
But to balance out the like potential pressure that that could be on ourselves, like what tiny
Mhm.
little thing can you do today that long term is actually going to make a lasting impact, and not just on you
Yeah.
but on everyone around you?
Mhm. Yeah, little changes make long-term impact. And
Hmm.
it's very countercultural in many ways too. I think, Western mindset as well.
Hmm.
Growing up in the United States and, like it has to be done now. We have to make big
Yeah.
moves, go big or go home.
Yeah, that one.
Like we haven't really practiced much in building on foundations that are going to make the journey sustainable,
Hmm.
that are going to later on reap um, a better tasting reward, like
Hmm.
not the quick fix,
Yes.
not the instant coffee route. Many of you who are listening may have heard me talk about coffee. I don't know, or you may know you in person. I just love coffee. And I
Hmm.
love the slow process that it is of,
Mm.
making a pour over in my kitchen. It is better tasting to me to do this for myself. And you may not share the same, but I put this in the light of like saying
Yeah.
that, like, I know that, you know, it may take longer, but I love it more and it tastes
Hmm.
better to me. And so I'm gonna take the time. And
Yeah.
that's just like a metaphor for a little bit of what I was just talking about there, taking
Yeah.
little steps that make big changes and,
Definitely. I do
reap
also
better
think that
fruit.
there's something to be said about slow living,
Yeah.
especially in this culture that we're in, and
Hmm.
especially after the busyness of the holidays. Like, and I
Totally.
feel like so many people in January are like, oh my gosh, okay, well, I gotta like hit the gym every day and I gotta,
Mm-hmm.
take fast action on all of my goals. But like, what
Mm-hmm.
if you took this month or the first month of whatever your new year is, whenever that is? What if you took that time to just pause, reflect, slow down, and
Mm-hmm.
reassess?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what direction do I really want to go? Maybe going to the gym is important, but maybe it's not. And only you can know that from actually slowing down and tuning into yourself, like closing your eyes, pausing,
Mm-hmm.
like going inward. You have
Mm-hmm.
like everything that you ever need is actually within you. There's
Yep.
nothing outside of you that you could ever possibly need long term. But like,
Mhm.
I think that we get so distracted by that. I mean,
Mhm.
marketing works, right? But like, we don't actually need any
Mhm.
of these things on a deep, meaningful level. Like, okay, I do get it. We need food and water and community, there are things. I'm not saying that
Yes.
like you could just be a hermit and like never eat again, but the actual meaningful things, like the
Mm-hmm.
nourishment for your soul and your mind
Mm-hmm.
come from within. And when we do
Yeah.
pause and reflect, I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's such a beautiful part of
Mm-hmm.
like the new year time is
Mm-hmm.
actually reflecting and celebrating what the past significant time period was, and
Mm-hmm.
also celebrating what is inevitably coming your way when you
Yeah.
I mean it's all I just feel like it's so important to know who you are so that you can
Mm-hmm.
take aligned action, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
be yourself as you move forward, as you take
Mm-hmm.
those baby steps, as you slow
Yeah.
down and just like, who are you? I mean, one of the things that Sam said was talking about discovering your gifts that you have
I
to
was just
give.
about to say that.
Yeah,
Yep.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what
Yeah, that
what if
process
we
of
all did?
discovery, knowing who
Mhm.
you are, will lead you into greater understanding of the gifts that you were given or that you're developing.
Mhm.
And she talked about like, I can't bear to think that I wouldn't get to share this with the world.
Mhm.
Like she
Mhm.
talked about memento mori, like
Yeah.
all men must die.
Yep.
Like so,
Mhm.
you know, the one relationship you will always have is yourself. We have to make the journey. We have to go through the process of discovering who we are.
I mean, honestly, and I love what she said too about there were so many people I tried to be. There were so many people I was supposed to be, but the only one that worked out was me. And I think that's something that like we have to actually tune into ourselves to find out who the heck we really are. And I think, I mean that can be really uncomfortable because it can take like ignoring society. It can take uh lovingly telling our parents like thank you for raising me, but I need to be me now. Like that was something important for me to shed. But I think about, teachers and stuff, like anybody that has had influence on us, mentors, teachers, whoever, that maybe had a vision for who we were going to be. This idea of like who we were
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be according to somebody else, though. And even like trying different things on, I feel like that's perfectly normal. Like as we're trying to fit into society or as we're trying to fit into this world and like, who am I even? You look around yourself and that's what you see are these different options. And so you try to be them. But of course, the only one that's really going to work out in the end
Mm-hmm.
is yourself. That has been like an
Mm-hmm.
ongoing process for me as like very deeply these last few years. And it's really uncomfortable to shed that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but it's also incredibly freeing to just truly be me. And that's the only one that's ever going to work out for any of us.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I
Yeah.
actually just spent some time writing about this on my personal blog last week, which there's a quote out there that I couldn't pronounce the person who spoke it for the life of me. He's the name that I have a lot of trouble pronouncing, but the quote goes, and now with God's help, I shall become myself. And I spent some
Mm,
time thinking over that. And it's like, I shall become myself. What does that even mean? I was like, it is a process of discovery and it's constantly changing and it's different from one season to the next. And that can be for many different reasons. It could be because you're discovering new things about yourself. You're developing new parts of who you are within your story.
mhm.
You've stepped into a new role as a parent or a spouse or caregiver or, whatever it may be. And those are all beautiful things. And so it's it's actually a gift to make the journey of discovering um, who you are, to stop trying to be, let go of supposed to be, and to be me, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just like want to end that there. So good. I think that
I
that's
feel like it's a
something
good
that,
note to leave
like,
on.
yeah, we really get to sit with that. Like, we are evolving constantly. There's no one iteration of me. And so today, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just sit with that. And yeah, I mean, for all of you listeners out there, I would love to connect with you guys. We would love to hear from you in the comments or in
Mm-hmm.
Messenger, or you can email us anytime. But like, we would especially love to hear, like, what is it that you have really gotten from these episodes so far? Like, what have been maybe some big takeaways for you, or what is really sitting deeply within you? What is um maybe what has inspired some change within you? Yeah, we got
Mm-hmm.
some big questions, big stuff coming up. For us as we've like been in conversations with people, and I mean, also coming up in the future, I'm very excited about future conversations, but like there's been a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
goodness coming out of the conversations that we've been having, and I'm very grateful for them.
How's
Yes.
your heart? Be
Ooh.
honest with yourself today. It'll lead you into greater understanding of who you are and what your gifts are, and
Mm,
this narrative, this journey, this story that you're writing, and the things that light you up.
yes. So good. Well, as always,
And
you
with
guys
that,
can connect with us anytime on Instagram or Facebook at Thrive Fully Alive. You can email us at thrivefullyalive@gmail.com. We would definitely love to hear from you. And if you would like to be on the podcast or have a friend that you would like to recommend being on the podcast, you can email us to get that information, or through our Instagram. You can just click the link in bio. We would love to have you all on. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
yay, see you guys next week.
Bye bye.
Thanks for tuning in to So What Makes You Come Alive. We're so inspired by the conversations we get to have with everyday humans about what lights them up and how to love the story they're living. We hope that you feel just as inspired too.
Interested in getting in on the inspiration? Click the link in our Instagram bio at Thrive Fully Alive and select the option for The One About You, be our guest. Remember to tune in each week for a new episode where we explore what it looks like to get back to living our best story, where we hope that your favorite story becomes your own.